All right, I'm going to call this Board of Selectmen meeting to order. It's Wednesday, October 9th, and the first order of business is the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we get into visitors, since we are in our first session of having our Board of Selectmen video meetings recorded for the public, in the interest of letting everybody know who is at the table, I thought we could just go around and introduce ourselves. Let's start over.
Okay, Tim Guerra, Board of Selectmen.
Jack Sherman.
Carol Walter.
Mary Scatino.
And I'm Christine Goupil for Selectmen. The next item on the agenda is visitors. Is there anybody from the visitors who would like to take the opportunity to speak?
I'll mention something since I'm here.
Do you, because we are recording, if you don't mind coming forward. Sorry, and then just state your name for the record.
I'm Carrie Allen. You were kind enough to allow the Historical Society to open up the Little Red Schoolhouse, and we're going to do that on October 19th. And I wanted you to know we're working in conjunction with the library, and so far as we're having an info session there, and the response is tremendous. I just wanted to let you know the public is excited about that. So thanks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other visitors? All right, the approval of minutes, we're going to do them in individual since the participation was varied on those dates. So the first approval minutes would be September 20th, 2019.
I make a motion to accept the minutes for September 20th, 2019, when we met at Valley Shore.
Second.
Do we have discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. You're gonna have
I
to
abstain.
abstain.
And I'm going to vote aye because we have one abstention. All right, and the next is October 7th, or excuse me, 2nd, 2019.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of our regular meeting, October 2nd, 2019.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And October 3rd, 2019.
I'll make a motion to accept those minutes, October 3rd, 2019.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And I have to abstain.
I'll vote aye then. Next is resignations and appointments. We have none on the agenda this evening, so we're going to go right to accepting the Youth and Services Bureau Enhancement Grant in the amount of $8,588. Without objection, I would like David Malillo, our Director of Human Services, to speak to it.
I think we just,
Sorry, Dave.
I think this had come before the board just a couple of weeks ago to accept application, and now we have been approved for the money. As I said then, this is a long-standing grant, probably about 15 years. The town's been getting it every year. This year has been a big bump. It was 4,000 and change, and now it's up over 8,000. So it's a good sign of the state legislature feeling good about the youth service bureaus of the state. There's sort of an in-kind cash match that you have to do, but there's no direct cash match. In other words, as long as the town is spending 8,000 and whatever dollars on youth services in general, then you're good to go as far as this grant.
So it's in kind inside of your regular budget then?
Right.
Do we have any other questions from the board? I'd be looking for a motion to accept the grant.
I'll make a motion to accept the Youth Service Bureau grant of $8,588 for fiscal year 2021, allotment for fiscal year 2020, allotment for fiscal year 2021.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the CERC contract for the charrette for the Pearson School. Everybody's received the packet from CERC, And just to elaborate on what a charrette is, it's a public process by getting where the town can get the information from the residents, not just taxpayers, but other people, even the surrounding community, businesses, as to what the future use of Pearson could be. What is the interest out there from the public? And this will help drive the town through the process to the Planning and Zoning Commission to help guide them on writing regulations to make the building move on to that future use. Without going through this public process, we are only relying upon what the market will bear, and it doesn't give the opportunity to the public to weigh in on the future use of a town facility. So we have a date scheduled. It's November 2nd. The time is to be determined. The charrette will be hosted in the Pearson School. We're hoping that we will get pretty heavy participation for the charrette. CERC is one of the organizations that had reached out to the Pearson Future Use Committee and presented how they would proceed with hosting a charrette. The Pearson Future Use Committee indicated that they were interested in working with CERC. CERC is currently the economic development consultants for the town as well. So I would be looking for a motion to accept the CERC services contract, and it would be coming out of professional services. If anybody has, if I entertain a motion first, and we can get into discussion.
Well, I'll make a motion, we accept the CERC contract for $7,500 for charrette preparation and facilitated charrette.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Yes, Carol.
When we were talking about this, there were 3 bids that came in to handle the charrette, to the Pearson Future Use Committee. And I thought that the highest proposed amount was $5,000, and this is $7,500. And I'm wondering, when it says the phase 1 is 3 weeks of preparation following the project start date, how is this different, or how can this be, I don't know, reflected, or the young man who's here from CERC for 1 day a week, all
Kevin
day.
Bielmeyer, yes.
Right. How come what he does as a part of the Clinton CERC team not already be covered in this charrette preparation fee?
So what he offers the town is under a contract with CERC specifically for economic development. What he does is he schedules some meetings with developers. He meets with people who are in the land use office that just need a little nudge and to figure out a little more what their role is. He's working with us on that abatement, and he's currently drafting the actual application process. So he has a very different role than the charrette process.
He's drafting an application process for what?
The abatement. So we passed the
Oh, the
abatement
tax
policy.
one.
So we're actually creating the framework for the application. So we already have interested parties, and so we already had a conference call today specifically related to it. The charrette is a different process, and it's actually different staff. So you'll see that Courtney Hendrickson, who is the Vice President of Municipal Services, will be involved, and Sadie Colcord. They also have other staff that they'll be pulling in from CERC, and it's not Kevin Bielmeyer. He's got a different role that he maintains for the town. So again, it's a contract for a different type of service. Courtney Hendrickson has been providing services to CCM all over the state. She's done these charrettes. I'm quite confident with her ability to both engage with the community and then also extract from the community what we need to do to be able to guide the town forward. So yes, there is a difference in cost, but at the end of the day, we usually choose a contract based on the best opportunity, as opposed to, it's not always the lowest cost. You want to go with the organization that is going to offer the best outcome for the contract and for the town.
And she's also dealt with us in regards to the manufacturing and hospitality breakfast.
Yes.
Correct?
So she's got a very good sense about where the town is going and needs to go. But again, we need somebody who's going to be able to facilitate a meeting, engage with the public, but then also communicate to the public some of the realities surrounding it too. I mean, we did a similar charrette with the Morgan School, the old Morgan property, and when we went through that process, people had some pretty grandiose ideas for the site. Some people want to see it return to nature, natural environment. Some people want to see it in an amusement park. There's some realities that have to be addressed in that charrette. You know, the ability to create an amusement park really has to do with market forces, and I think Courtney, being very involved with the state on economic development, would probably say, for example, on the old Morgan property, well, the realities of a amusement park coming to Clinton with the demographics is probably not realistic. Instead, she'll help drive somebody's conversation. If that's what you're thinking, perhaps a sports use would be more viable, or so she's going to be able to try to build consensus in the group.
No, I understand that, and I mean, I understand that when those three bids, or they weren't actually, well, anyway, came in, that definitely CERC seemed to have a handle on what it was that we were looking for the best. I think my question revolves around, I mean, phase 1 is 3 weeks following the project start date. If we're planning on doing this November 2nd, wouldn't 3 weeks have started a week ago? And yet at this moment, there is no contract, so how can we even, we can't get
tight.
that from them.
Right, it's tight right now, so it's going to be trimmed down a little bit. We've already got meetings scheduled to start the process rolling. So assuming the Board of Selectmen moves forward with them, this is the contract we work under. Again, I'll go back to the Pearson Future Use Committee did request working with CERC. We had the other options of other organizations, and I'm just bringing forward what the Future Use Committee made a motion to put forward. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, the next on the agenda is a complete streets policy. As we discussed at the last meeting, and we provided some other examples from other towns, Stratford, I don't know if we provided Madison's, but West Hartford. Many of the towns in the state of Connecticut do have complete streets policies. It is a initiative that is set out in our town plan of conservation and development to adopt a complete street policy. It also has been picked up by our sustainability committee as well as one of their initiatives that's outlined in their programming. The attorney has reviewed it and finds no problem with it, and it has gone to the Director of Public Works for his review as well. So a complete streets policy is just a policy, but it helps drive future planning and future investment in the town. Planning and design for complete streets up front saves the town money because you don't have to retrofit roads later or sidewalks later. Because it's more of a hassle at that point. You're going to have to deal with right of way. You're going to have to deal with acquisition of property, which should have been addressed up front. And it's also about investing in our community and making sure we're focusing the areas of infrastructure where we already have municipal buildings or areas of commerce. So it's centralizing where those investments take place, and it helps guide planning as well. And the alternative to this is systems of roads and bike lanes and sidewalks that isolate communities, part of our community. And we don't want to do that. We want to make sure our community is a healthy, vibrant community that's walkable, bikeable, and that cars can get around in the constructed way that's beneficial for everybody as well, cars and trucks. So everybody's received the draft. I'd be either looking for a motion or...
Well, I just got the draft tonight, so I did read West Hartford, I did read Stratford, so I think we probably should table it to next week so we can read it.
Okay.
I would agree.
All right, can I have a motion on that?
Make a motion to table the complete street policy adoption.
Till next week, right? And I'll second
Well,
it.
until the next Board of Selectmen meeting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And
I'll
this
second
way
it.
Phil will be here too.
Do we have further discussion?
I just want to read it, that's all.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The next on the agenda is the town manager. Phil, who is the chair of that committee, is not here this evening, so I'm going to table, or we're just going to move on from the agenda item.
I can speak on this behalf.
You want to, oh, did he?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to. All right, we're gonna have Tim update us on that process.
I think for those that are in attendance, last night we had a meeting for all of the town council candidates so that they could be brought up to speed on the current process. We did receive 45 applications, and currently we're down to 12 candidates. 12 or 14, I'm not sure if I think it might be 14. But right now, all of the candidates were informed of the process and their involvement, and there will be future work being done by our consultant SGR to scrutinize the final or the second tier candidates, and at that time they will present all of that information to the select committee, and we'll move forward to eventually getting down to somewhere between 3 to 5 candidates.
Okay, any questions? All right, thank you, Tim. Next on the agenda is Selectmen's report. Did you want to fill in?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up this issue because I didn't know what this involved, but I did read the Park and Rec Commission minutes from October 1st, and I'd like to paraphrase this. This was a report on the Pearson School, and it says that though the Pearson School is closed, there is discussion to make it available to Park and Recreation.
Yes.
Right.
So we are working with Park and Rec and the school system and Public Works to open it up. We are lacking in the facilities for basketball right now because of the number of gyms. So what we're going to do is continue to allow the use of that through March to allow Park and Rec to continue to host basketball. So we're working with both the school facility in terms of the custodians and Public Works to make sure that we have that availability.
Okay, so this is just for this particular season then?
That's it, and then after.
Okay,
And it's
so this
contingent
isn't-
upon insurance, too.
The insurance carries over. That's not a concern. We've resolved those areas. Right now, it's just trying to figure out who's going to be in the building during those times. So the custodial services, we're working out the details of that. Yeah. So again, we're really short on sports space, not just internal, but even external. Sports fields are at a premium. And especially in our town, because we have such great fields between Public Works and Park and Rec, maintenance on the fields, that people are always trying to utilize them. So
Okay.
this will allow for that.
I did attend last week the ribbon cutting for the new restaurant in town, Sartori's Kitchen, at 350 East Main Street. Matter of fact, I've been there and had something to eat afterwards. I can say that my sandwich was very good. So I would like to recommend that, we try to support this business and certainly encourage our friends and neighbors to do the same. I was a volunteer for the half marathon 10K race this past weekend that was started and ended at Chamard Vineyard. I think they had over 700 runners that participated. I thought it was a very nice event. Certainly afterwards, there was wine, there was a box, I'm not going to say a lunch really, because it was just a piece of bread and some cheese and an apple. So I can't consider that a boxed lunch, but it was at least better than nothing and something for the runners to eat, because 13 miles is still a pretty long trek for anybody to run. So I'm sure they appreciated it, and it was the first time I volunteered for it. I'm glad I did. It was a nice event, and it brings people to Clinton, and I think we should continue to support events like that. And finally, I did register for next week's Chamber of Commerce dinner for their annual awards ceremony, so,
I think all of us are going at this point,
okay,
so we'll be
good.
well attended.
That's it?
Jeff?
Well, nothing in regards to that, but we all did register for the chamber, I'm sure. To follow up on Kerry's Little Red Schoolhouse, the Historical Society is using a trolley, which seats 53. I think it'll be full several times.
We'll be making a few runs.
So I think that's outstanding, to be honest with you. That's it.
That's from the Elgin Center?
Oh, it's leaving from the library
Oh, okay.
to the, and there's going to be no parking signs up there. The police have already been consulted, so traffic authorities already been approached. And DPW has really done a really good job, especially Tom Carmody, so.
Traffic, parking in the library is going to be an issue.
Which might save us, because we're looking at a large number. That's sort of scary, because the Little Red Schoolhouse is 20 by 24. You know, it's like,
Can only fit so many.
yeah, exactly. So,
Okay, so-
at least the community's
Oh
excited.
yeah, the
That's-
room is only 20
by
by
24.
It's a small room, so.
And
If we're gonna do, if we're gonna do audience participation, because we're being videotaped. Nothing else?
That's it.
Okay. It came out of the town manager discussion last night, very pleased with the clarity with which the process was explained. It was very helpful having Doug there, but not there, to explain the purpose of the search committee going forward, going beyond November 19th. I know after last week, I had one opinion, and after last night, was it last night? I have another
Yes.
opinion.
Yeah, just try
So it sounds, and Doug really presented an agenda that sounds like everything is moving right along, and he plans to have some really hard material for us by October 18th. So I was very pleased by that. And that's it. Water pollution met last night, but I didn't go. I'm doing enough for them as it is.
You're gonna bring up
Okay.
that.
All right, just to update everybody, we had our first meeting, first of many meetings, but first meeting related to the hydraulic study for the Morgan School Bridge. This was a meeting of DEEP, FEMA, NRCS, our engineering firm, DTC, GM2 Associates, who conducted the study, CDM McGuire, who is the organization that's helping us move the process along, and I think if I'm missing anybody in the room, and obviously our Public Works Commission, our Public Works staff. There is a couple recommendations, 3 recommendations. The town cannot really move forward on these recommendations until we get guidance from DEEP. DEEP is going to really drive the process as to how we deal with not only the bridge, so I keep talking about this whole project, but this is from the storm damage back in September 25th of last year, as in 4 projects. You've got the damage to the bridge, and the bridge, according to FEMA, encompasses anything 40 feet below, above. That's considered infrastructure. Beyond that, it falls into NRCS's jurisdiction, which is natural environment. You also have the berm where the land broke through into Connecticut Water's pump station area. That's a whole nother part of the project. And then there's the rain garden, which is part of the permitting process for the Morgan School. In order to address any of these, we cannot move forward until DEEP gives us an A-OK as to what kind of natural environment they want us to use to remedy how the land has been washed away, and it's also been washed downstream. Will they allow us to move the material that was washed downstream back up to fill? And the fill would have to be in front of the berm that was created for, or you can call the dam or a berm for Connecticut Water's pump station. Will they allow us to use that material to fill in the rain gardens, because the rain gardens are not operating the same way that we anticipated, because the flood or the rain that we're experiencing now is much more intense than it was when this was even originally planned. We looked back at some photos from the original planning stages of the school, and you can see the water was substantially lower through that whole process, and now we've been documenting it, and the water is incredibly high, much higher than we ever anticipated, because we're looking at 100-year storms that are happening much more frequently. They're not even 100-year storms anymore. So whether or not we need to plan this bridge to accommodate the 100-year storm, or whether or not we need to go back and build the bridge to what DEEP originally allowed for that permit. And these are all questions that we won't know until we have that meeting with DEEP. So we're scheduling that ASAP. We are receiving reimbursements through the FEMA process for the work that we've done thus far. So if you recall, we appropriated funds, $750,000, to do the FEMA work. And we are documenting it back to FEMA, and the reimbursements are coming in. So I'm happy that that process is working efficiently. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I do. Is the water company working on the pump station as we speak?
You mean, is it operational?
Yeah, do they have a bridge over the waterway right now?
The berm was built, and that is completed. Part of their contract with the town, because it does straddle a portion of the town's property, is they need to, as they pull out of the project, they need to repair the rain gardens, because that was their staging area. They are not going to do it this fall because of the timing. Doesn't make sense. We might be back in the river and using it as a staging area next year to address what DEEP wants. So that, again, that's another part of the process that, again, DEEP is going to drive the answer to that. So they're not finished. They do have a contract with the town to fix it, though.
Okay, so it's not fixed at this point.
The berm, the dam or berm is complete, but the material,
station.
the rain gardens leading to it are not.
But I was referring to the pump station, their actual,
I can't speak to whether or not Connecticut Water is operating their pump station.
I was just curious, that's all.
I can ask that, that's pretty easy. He was, I apologize, we did have representation from Connecticut Water at the meeting this past week as well.
Okay, thank you.
So the way it stands right now, the bridge has been recreated to its previous
No,
configuration?
it is, the bridge has been put into a repair that's conducive for an emergency repair. It is
Okay.
not a permanent
Does
repair.
does it allow the same flow, less flow, greater flow?
It would allow the same flow right now. Because
And-
the culverts that are there, we did not replace the culverts, we only repaired the bridge and supported the bridge in an emergency environment.
So, I mean, I'm looking for some other rationale for why the water is higher than rain in particular, because, I mean, this was a dry fall. We had a very wet spring, but it's been a dry fall, and I'm wondering, has there been any examination either up or down the river for any explanation for this? I mean, were there other things that were washed out during that flash flood that might be contributing?
I think, and this is, speaking as a layman, I think that because the data that used to exist really addressed inundation from the sound and more intense storms along the shoreline, only very recently in 2018 did FEMA update the inundation maps for floodplains related to rivers and streams. So that data, when we built this bridge and when DEEP issued the permits to say this is the flow, that was the data everybody used. Now the data has been updated, and it's incredible to look at the change of environment for all the municipalities, because we looked at it from the COG level, from the regional planning agency level, and the inundation on rivers and streams is very impactful, and it's concerning because we need to address it, and that's why we have a natural hazards mitigation planning process taking place now. That data will be input into it, and then what happens is specifically related to the storm, there's an opportunity to address mitigation, and that is paid 100% through the process, but it has
Well, I
to be.
didn't think that that was going to be allowed as part of this. Okay.
It's
All
a
right.
conversation we're having with FEMA. Again, they have to agree as to what the mitigation
Okay.
process is and what the mitigation goals are. So that's another, this is an incredibly entailed process with all these folks, because they have different requirements. NRCS has a different requirement for requesting funds and documenting funds. FEMA has a different, and the just the permitting process alone is complicated. So, just on the local level, we have to get Inland Wetlands Commission approval, we have to get Army Corps of Engineer, NRCS, DEEP, FEMA, all these people have to play in together. So again, that's why we're having another meeting up with Deep in the next couple of weeks, just to get everybody on board again and making sure that what is determined in the hydrology study makes sense going forward. Because if FEMA, or excuse me, not FEMA, if Deep says, nope, we don't want to work with this, then we're going to have to go back to them and say, what do you want? How do you want us to resolve these issues? It's complex.
It's huge.
It is. It is. Any other questions related to that? All right. Let's see. The other thing I wanted to just discuss with everybody, I did want to let everybody know about, so over the past year and a half, I have been aggressively pursuing the PWAs that have been open, or the PWs that have been open with the Sandy and Irene. These are funds that were utilized through the town through other disasters. So working with Dana Conover at the state and trying to pursue those funds and find out why we haven't gotten the reimbursements. Right now, we're anticipating, we did receive $183,000.
Towards that?
Towards
FEMA
that,
to Sandy.
just was received. We're also looking at $244,000, which is what we actually requested. Or excuse me, we requested $241,000. We're actually getting $244,594. And that should be accounted for very soon. So again, these are going to go back into our general fund. I'm also anticipating, and I'll just read it as is, it's the state should be reaching out to us soon to address the payment schedule. And there's an anticipation that we're looking at $359,000 of the federal share of those projects. So I am very hopeful that that money will be coming down the pike. Again, we have to remain diligent and stay on top of these things and make sure that both our state agency is pushing for them and making sure the documentation is appropriate and answers the questions that FEMA wants. I'll also thank Joe Courtney for his support in this process. He has representatives at our meetings and is making sure that we do get reimbursed for some of these projects.
That's good news.
It's outstanding since we've been trying to get it for, 7 years?
So
That's wonderful.
It
stay
is.
tuned on that.
It's a start.
Any questions on that? Alrighty. So I want to touch base on. I believe that is it for now. It's a lot, so. We need a motion to add to the executive session a contract for Public Works. If I can ask for
So
that.
moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Alrighty. So we're gonna go into
I
exec.
have a question. You want them to stay around because we might vote on it?
Yeah, we'll vote on it after. We're gonna go into executive session. If you're able to shut off the machine and then we'll come back out. All right, can I have a motion to go into executive
Eric.
session?
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Thanks.
Okay,
Can I have a
second.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. So we are out of executive session. There are 3 items which we would like to cover at this point. One of them would be the Public Works Commission ratified contract through July 1st, 2018 to July 30th, 2020.
June 30th.
Excuse me, June 30th, 2020. So I'd be looking for a motion to accept the contract.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Is there discussion? I will just thank them for their
Patience.
patience and commitment to the town, and the fine work that they do.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. The next item to discuss is the contract for the executive assistant for Mary Scatino. And I would be looking for a motion for the 3 portions of the contract, and you can just state the titles of those
What's
3.
this one here?
Okay, I'll make a motion for the full-time and employee benefits for the executive assistant.
Okay. The side letter as well
So I
as
thought you
the.
wanted 3 motions.
No, well, no, you can include it in one motion.
Oh, okay.
It's
The
fine.
side letter that first select person can sign, and the, I'm reading, and the executive assistant to first selectman / town manager employment agreement. Did I cover all 3?
And the permanent, full-time, non-bargaining employee benefits.
I did that first.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have discussion? No discussion? So I will just say, I thank Mary Scatino for the tremendous work that she has done for the town, and I think she should be recognized. So we are changing her title from administrative assistant to executive assistant to recognize the work that she currently does above and beyond what she is tasked to do. And I'm thrilled that the board has recognized that as well.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
The next is the part-time employees to increase the part-time employees by $1.
I'll make a motion for that increase for the part-time
The three
employees.
part-time employees.
Specific 3 employees.
And did you,
I'll second that. Do you want anything else in there?
did we address the,
No, we didn't. That's for another.
oh, we couldn't find it, the,
No.
okay,
So that was $1 an hour, correct?
for $1 increase, yep, for the 3 employees.
And they haven't, one of them hasn't had a raise for a couple of years, so.
Long time. So
She's
the-
right, it did say 1279, and that rate was from Angela.
So can I also have a motion to include a $1 increase to the clerk?
Well, why don't we get this one
For
approved
how
first?
much?
A $1 increase for the clerk.
Okay.
Well, why don't we just,
Let's do this first. So I would, do we have a motion and a second?
yep,
All right, discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
And I'd also be looking for a motion to include a $1 increase to the clerking role that we advertised.
And what is
To
it?
bring that
What
up
is the
from-
dollar amount now?
The is 12,
79.
1279, that would bring it up to 1379.
I'll make that motion.
So this- I'm not, do you think that's enough?
Well, it's
I
a
mean,
start.
get people,
We can
I'm
always bring
almost
it.
tempted to make that $2, because it's.
How about this? Can we let the motion fail, and why don't we do a little research?
Yeah.
And we'll do a little, and bring it back to the board. How about
Why don't we
that?
table it?
Sure. But I already have a motion, so I will rescind my motion, and let's,
Yeah, I think we need to take a better look at that.
all right, we will do that. That is it for our agenda. I would just be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.